October 14th, 2014, Eastern Afghanistan. The rocky outcrops smelled like copper and gunpowder. 847 meters below, 12 men were about to die. They just didn't know it yet. Through the Schmidt and Bender scope, the world compressed into brutal clarity. Crosshairs, wind flags in the sparse trees, the gentle rise and fall of a chest behind an AK-47. The mathematics of death reduced to holdover points and minute of angle calculations. The radio crackled, static, then panic. All units, this is actual. We are under heavy fire. I say again, heavy contact. Multiple casualties. Phantom, where the hell are you, Phantom? The call sign hung in the thin mountain air like a ghost. Appropriate, really, because in 4 minutes and 47 seconds, one operator would do what an entire SEAL team couldn't: eliminate 12 enemy combatants with 12 precisely placed rounds. No misses, no mercy, no hesitation. But this isn't a story about perfect shooting. This is a story about the weight of every trigger pull, about a father who taught his daughter that precision isn't just about hitting targets. It's about knowing which targets to hit, when to hit them, and living with what happens when you pull that trigger. This is a story about Sergeant Sloan Mercer. 28 years old, 5'7", dark hair braided tight against her skull, hazel eyes that could track movement through dense forest at 1,500 meters, and a legacy she never asked for but couldn't escape. The story doesn't start on that ridge in Kandahar. It starts 20 years earlier in a place where the only sounds were wind through pine trees and the distant howl of wolves, where a little girl learned that every shot counts, where a father built a sniper out of love and necessity in the cold Alaskan wilderness. It starts with a man named Elijah Mercer. 91 confirmed kills, Silver Star, Purple Heart, dead at 53 in a classified operation half a world away from the cabin where he raised his daughter alone. This is the story of how his daughter became the Phantom he always knew she could be, and how she proved that some legacies are written in blood and gunpowder and the impossible mathematics of a bullet traveling through space at 2,800 feet per second. Alaska, the making of a sniper, 50 miles north of Fairbanks, Alaska. 1998. The cabin sat in a clearing that shouldn't exist. Too perfect, too isolated. As if someone had carved a piece of civilization out of wilderness that didn't want to be tamed. Sergeant Major Elijah Mercer had built it with his own hands after his wife died. After the Army gave him a flag and a pension and said thank you for your service. After he looked at his 6-year-old daughter and decided that raising her among people who didn't understand war was a mistake he couldn't afford to make. Sloan was 8 the first time she shot a rifle that weighed almost as much as she did. Winter, 20 degrees below zero, snow falling in sheets that turned the world into a monochrome painting. Her father knelt beside her in the blind they'd built 3 hours before dawn. His breath came in controlled puffs. Hers came in rapid, nervous bursts. Breathe slower, baby girl. His voice was gravel and smoke. Elk can hear a heartbeat from 100 yards if the wind's right. She tried. Failed. Tried again. Through the scope, the bull elk stood broadside at 460 yards. Massive. Ancient. Beautiful in the way that wild things are beautiful when they don't know they're being watched. Why do we have to kill it? Her voice was barely a whisper. Elijah didn't answer right away. He never did. That was something Sloan would learn to appreciate later. Her father didn't fill silence with empty words. He filled it with lessons. Because we need the meat to survive winter. Because nature doesn't give participation trophies. Because if you're going to take a life, you need to know what that means. The weight of it, the responsibility. Her finger rested on the trigger guard, not the trigger, not yet. He drilled that into her. Safety until you're ready, and you're never ready until you've made the decision. How do you know when you are ready? You don't? That's the point. Every shot you take, you carry it. Every kill you remember. Your grandfather taught me that. I'm teaching you. Now make the choice. She was 8 years old. The rifle was a Remington 700 that Elijah had customized for precision. The elk was 460 yards away, unaware that its life hung in the balance of a little girl's decision. Sloan took a breath, let half of it out, settled the crosshairs 2 inches high and 1 inch right to account for wind, squeezed. The rifle bucked. The elk dropped like someone cut its strings. Clean. 1 shot, instant death. Elijah didn't congratulate her. He stood up, brushed snow from his knees, and started walking toward the kill. Sloan followed, rifle slung over her shoulder, already too heavy for her small frame. When they reached the elk, Elijah knelt, placed his hand on its still warm flank. This animal was alive 30 seconds ago. It had a life, a routine. It was going to bed down in that stand of spruce over there, then wake up tomorrow and eat and breathe and exist. Now it won't because you decided it wouldn't. You understand, she nodded, couldn't speak. The enormity of it pressing down on her chest like the rifle's weight, but heavier. Different. Good. That weight you're feeling, that's real. Don't ever lose it. The day killing becomes easy is the day you stop being human and start being a monster. Now help me feel dress it. If you're going to take life, you're going to respect it. Every part has a purpose. That night by the wood stove after they'd hauled 300 pounds of meat back to the cabin in the sled, after they'd hung the quarters in the cold room and cleaned the tools and washed the blood from their hands, Elijah sat down across from his daughter. He was cleaning his own rifle, a custom Remington 700 that had been to Iraq and Afghanistan and places he'd never talk about. The stock was worn smooth from a decade of use. Etched into the side, Almeis 91 confirmed. Dad, what does 91 confirmed mean? His hands stopped moving for just a moment, then continued the methodical disassembly. It means 91 times I made a choice. 91 times someone died because I decided they needed to. 91 lives that stopped so other lives could continue. Do you remember all of them? Every single one. He looked up. His eyes were the same hazel as hers. And you will too. Every shot you take in anger, in war, in necessity. You'll carry them. That's the price of precision. That's what separates us from machines. Machines don't remember. We do. The years that followed were a masterclass in becoming something more than human. Or maybe less. Sloan was never sure which. Age 10. Making consistent shots at 600 yards on moving targets. Learning to read wind by watching grass bend and feeling temperature changes on her skin. Age 12. Tracking wounded caribou through snow for 8 miles. Reading blood spatter patterns. Understanding how animals move when they're dying. Learning patience that most adults never achieve. Age 14. Her first shot over 1,000 yards. A paper target, not living flesh, but the principle remained. Calculate elevation. Account for Coriolis effect. Understand that at that distance, the bullet drops 40 feet and drifts 6 feet in a light crosswind. Her father timing her calculations. 2 minutes to range, wind, and execute. She did it in 90 seconds. You're faster than I was at your age, Elijah said. Not praise, just fact. But speed means nothing if you can't slow down when it matters. Anyone can hit perfect conditions. A phantom hits when everything's wrong. Bad weather, bad position, bad odds. That's when you find what you're made of. Age 16. Living alone in the wilderness for 3 weeks. 70 pounds of gear. No rescue, no safety net. Moving through terrain without leaving traces. Hunting, fishing, surviving. Not because she wanted to prove something, because her father said real operators needed to know how to disappear. When I'm gone, he told her the night before that solo trip, you need to be able to survive without me. This isn't about making you tough. It's about making you ready for a world that won't care if you're prepared or not. She didn't understand then, wouldn't understand until years later when I'm gone became a reality instead of a hypothetical. The lessons weren't just about shooting, they were about the psychology of it, the ethics, the impossible weight of deciding who lives and who does. Shooting is the easy part, Elijah would say during their evening discussions. The cabin dark except for the wood stove's glow. Snow piling up outside, the two of them in a bubble of warmth and conversation about killing. Any fool can pull a trigger. The hard part is knowing when to shoot, when not to shoot, and living with the consequences of both decisions. A sniper's greatest weapon isn't the rifle, it's the mind behind it. At 17, Sloan left Alaska for the first time. University of Alaska at Fairbanks, ballistics degree. She commuted when possible, stayed in the cabin, when she could learn to navigate a world of people who'd never killed anything more threatening than a mosquito. She was summa cum laude. Perfect scores in exterior ballistics, atmospheric physics, and precision shooting theory. Her professors called her gifted. Her father called her prepared. Gifted means you got lucky with genetics, he said. Prepared means you put in the work. Don't confuse the two. The call. June 2012. Sloan was 26, home from university for the summer, working as a wilderness guide for tourists who wanted to pretend they understood Alaska. Her father had been called back to Afghanistan. Consultant work, he said, something classified, something important. I'll be back in 3 months, he told her. Keep the cabin warm. She watched his bush plane disappear into the gray sky. Had a feeling, tried to ignore it. 3 months became 4. 4 became 5. Then the Army chaplain showed up at the cabin in a Black Hawk helicopter that scared every animal within 10 miles. The wilderness doesn't see much military traffic. When it does, it means something bad. Elijah Mercer, killed in action, classified operation, details unavailable, full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery. The flag they gave her was crisp and perfectly folded. The rifle they gave her was his custom Remington 700, the one with 91 etched into the stock. The one he'd carried through Iraq and Afghanistan and places the Army would never officially acknowledge. The engravings read EM 91 confirmed, make them count, Dad. He'd had it engraved before his last deployment, as if he knew. At the funeral, a three-star general she'd never met pulled her aside. Your father was the finest sniper I ever served with. He saved my life in Mosul, saved a lot of lives. The work he was doing when he died, it mattered. I can't tell you what it was, but it mattered. Did he hesitate? Sloan asked. The question surprised them both. When he died, did he hesitate or did he make the shot? The general looked at her for a long moment, understanding passed between them. The understanding of people who know what it means to measure life in bullet calibers and wind drift. He made the shot, Sergeant Mercer, got the HVT, saved 6 operators, then took return fire. He died doing what he was born to do. No hesitation, just precision. Sloan nodded, couldn't speak. The weight of 91 lives her father had taken, the 6 lives he'd saved, the 1 life lost, all of it pressing down like a rifle too heavy to carry but impossible to put down. 3 days after the funeral, Sloan Mercer walked into an Army recruiting office in Fairbanks and enlisted. Not to honor her father, not to continue a legacy, but because she finally understood what he'd been trying to teach her all those years in the wilderness. Some people are built to make the hard decisions, to carry the weight, to be the precision instrument that stands between chaos and order. She was her father's daughter, and she had a lot more than 91 shots left to take. Sniper School Carrying the Weight, Fort Benning, Georgia, January 2013. The instructors at the Army sniper course had seen a lot of candidates wash out. Physical exhaustion, mental breakdown, inability to handle the isolation and patience required. But they'd never seen anyone quite like Sloan Mercer, 27 years old, 5'7", buck 30 soaking wet, quiet to the point of eerie, and shooting scores that broke records set by men twice her size with 3 times her experience. Master Sergeant Dale Thornton ran the course. 30 years in the Army, 214 confirmed kills across 4 deployments. He trained snipers who went on to become legends. He knew talent when he saw it. What he saw in Sloan Mercer scared him a little. Mercer, he said, after her first qualification shoot, you just posted a perfect score at 1,000 yards in 15-mile-per-hour crosswinds. Want to explain how? She looked at him with those hazel eyes that seemed to calculate wind drift and bullet drop even when she wasn't behind a scope. My father taught me that wind is just information. Temperature is information. Distance is information. Process the information. Apply the corrections. Take the shot. Your father teach you to shoot like that? Yes, Master Sergeant. He Army. Sergeant Major Elijah Mercer, retired 2009, KYA 2012, Afghanistan. Thornton's expression changed. Everyone in the sniper community knew that name. Elijah Mercer was legend, 91 confirmed, Silver Star. The kind of operator other operators told stories about. I served with your father in Mosul. 2007, he saved my life. Shot an insurgent at 1,800 meters in a sandstorm. Possible shot. He made it anyway. That was his specialty, Master Sergeant. Impossible shots. Is that your specialty too? Sloan thought about that. About elk in the snow, about her father's lessons, about the weight of 91 kills and the space for more. No, Master Sergeant, my specialty is making them count. She graduated top of her class. Perfect scores in fieldcraft observation and marksmanship. The written exam on ballistics and environmental effects she completed in 20 minutes. The average was 90, but Thornton noted something in her file. Something that would matter later. Candidate Mercer demonstrates exceptional technical proficiency and tactical awareness. However, observed tendency toward hyper-focus on primary target acquisition. Recommend continued evaluation of peripheral threat assessment under combat stress conditions. In plain English, she was so focused on hitting her target that she sometimes missed the bigger picture. It was a flaw. Small. Manageable. The kind of thing that combat would either fix or exploit. Helmand Province. The day everything changed, Afghanistan, March 2014. 6 months before Kandahar, 6 months before the shot that would define her. Sloan was attached to a Ranger unit as designated marksman. Not full SEAL integration yet, just support. Overwatch. The kind of assignment that kept her close to combat, but not quite in it. She'd taken 14 shots in combat by then. 14 confirmed kills. Taliban fighters, Al-Qaeda remnants, men with guns pointed at Americans. Each shot clean, each shot necessary, each shot carried. Her spotter was Staff Sergeant Sarah Brennan, 31 years old, squad leader, combat veteran with 3 deployments, married with 2 kids. The kind of soldier who could crack jokes in a firefight and write poetry in the downtime. They'd bonded over the absurdity of being women in a job that most men still thought women couldn't handle. Not through shared victimhood, through shared competence, through mutual respect for the work. Phantom, Sarah said one night. The nickname had stuck. Sloan moved through terrain like a ghost. You ever think about after, when the shooting stops? No, Sloan was cleaning her rifle. The ritual she performed every night. Break down, clean, inspect, reassemble. Do you, all the time, want to teach? Maybe high school history. Tell kids about the real cost of war. Not the sanitized textbook version. The version where people you love die and you carry it forever. Sounds depressing. Sounds honest. Sarah smiled. But that's after. Right now, we've got a mission tomorrow. Convoy escort. Intel says low threat. Should be easy. Easy. The word tasted like ash before it even left her mouth. March 17, 2014. Highway between Lashkar Gah and Camp Leatherneck. Sloan was on Overwatch. Rocky outcrop 400 meters from the highway. Sarah's squad providing ground security for a supply convoy. Routine. Standard. The kind of mission they'd run 100 times. Through her scope, Sloan watched the convoy roll. 4 Humvees, 30 soldiers, supplies for the forward operating base. Sarah was in the lead vehicle, standing in the turret scanning for threats. Then Sloan saw him. Taliban fighter, maybe 19 years old, RPG-7 on his shoulder, positioned in a second-story window of a half-collapsed building. Perfect angle on Sarah's Humvee. But behind him, visible through the glassless window, a child, maybe 6 years old, girl, sitting on the floor playing with something Sloan couldn't identify. The Taliban fighter raised the RPG. Sloan's crosshairs settled on his center mass. Her finger moved to the trigger, and she hesitated. 3 seconds, maybe 4. An eternity in combat time. The equations ran through her head. Take the shot, fighter dies, but the child is right there. What if the bullet overpenetrates? What if she misses by an inch? What if... Her father's voice. The day you hesitate is the day someone dies. Sarah's voice. Sometimes mercy is strength. 3 seconds. The fighter fired. The RP streaked across 400 meters in less than 2 seconds. Impacted Sarah's Humvee directly below the turret. The explosion was orange and black and final. Sloan fired. The Taliban fighter went down. The child behind him screamed. Sloan couldn't tell if the child was hit or just terrified. Didn't matter. Sarah Brennan was dead, killed instantly. 2 other soldiers wounded. The convoy erupted in chaos. Return fire, smoke, screaming. Sloan watched through her scope. Numb, frozen, carrying a weight that would never lift. She'd followed the rules of engagement. Civilian present, unclear shot. Technically, she'd done nothing wrong. Technically. But Sarah was still dead. 2 kids in Georgia would grow up without their mother. And Sloan had hesitated when hesitation meant death. The after-action review cleared her. No reprimand, no fault. Just one of those things that happens in war. But 3 people knew the truth. The Taliban fighter who'd pulled the trigger and died 30 seconds later. The child who'd been in the line of fire and would never be the same. And Sloan Mercer, who'd had the shot and waited too long. She visited Sarah's family during leave. Tried to explain. Failed. Sarah's husband held it together until Sloan left. Then called her cell phone an hour later and said things that were true and cruel and deserved. Sarah's 8-year-old daughter asked why Sloan hadn't saved her mommy. Sloan had no answer. That night in her barracks, she took out her father's rifle. The custom Remington with 91 etched into the stock. Added her own count, 14 confirmed kills. 1 failure. She made a promise to herself. To Sarah. To her father's memory. Never hesitate again. When the moment comes. When lives hang in the balance, act, decide, execute, no matter the cost. Meeting Commander Blackwood Bagram Airfield, September 2014. Commander Garrett Blackwood was 44 years old and looked like Central Casting's idea of a SEAL officer. 6'2", 210 pounds of muscle and scar tissue. 3 bronze stars and a silver star that came with a story he'd never tell. 20 years in naval special warfare. 3 as commander of SEAL Team 7. He'd lost his younger sister in Afghanistan 5 years earlier. Captain Rebecca Blackwood, Apache pilot, 29 years old. Shot down near Kandahar after hesitating to fire on a technical vehicle parked next to a mosque. Intel said the mosque was empty. Intel was wrong. Civilians inside. Rebecca hesitated, took return fire, killed on impact. Blackwood had listened to the radio chatter, heard his sister's last transmission. I see civilians. I can't take the shot. Then static. He'd spent 5 years believing that hesitation killed, that the warrior mindset required a switch you could flip. Emotions off, mission on, kill or be killed. He'd worked with female operators before, respected them. Some of the best intel analysts and logistics coordinators he'd known were women, but frontline combat direct action. He'd seen what happened when the moment required cold precision and human hesitation interfered. So when his new orders came down with an attached personnel file, Blackwood read it with skepticism already forming. Sergeant Sloan Mercer, designated marksman, reassigned to SEAL Team 7 as precision support element. Perfect scores, 15 confirmed kills. Daughter of Sergeant Major Elijah Mercer, approved for integration. He knew that name. Elijah Mercer was legend, 91 confirmed. Silver Star for a shot in Mosul that saved 6 Marines and a general. Killed in action doing classified work that probably saved more lives than anyone would ever know. But daughters aren't fathers. Legacy doesn't transfer through DNA. Blackwood called his executive officer, Lieutenant Cade Ramsey, 30 years old, former Army Ranger who'd crossed over to naval special warfare. Smart, reliable, not afraid to push back when Blackwood's instincts ran ahead of his judgment. Ramsey, you see this personnel file? Yes, sir, Mercer. Impressive credentials. She's Elijah Mercer's daughter. I know, sir. That's why Command wants her. Good PR. First female integrated with SEAL direct action. Shows the program works. Blackwood's jaw tightened. This isn't a PR exercise, Lieutenant. This is combat operations against an enemy that doesn't care about progressive politics. With respect, Commander, her scores suggest she can do the job. Scores are one thing, combat is another. I've seen what happens when operators hesitate at the wrong moment. Ramsey understood. Everyone on the team knew about Rebecca. Want me to tell Command we're declining the assignment? Blackwood considered. Thought about his sister. Thought about Elijah Mercer's legend. Thought about the mission always coming first. No, we'll integrate, Schrader. Standard protocols. She performs, she stays. She becomes a liability. She's gone. No special treatment because of her father's name. Understood, sir. 3 days later, Sloan Mercer walked into the SEAL Team 7 briefing room. Blackwood was there early. Wanted to take her measure before the formal introduction. Watch how she carried herself. How she interacted with the team. She was smaller than he expected. 5'7" maybe. Athletic but not imposing. Hair pulled back in a tight braid. Hazel eyes that moved constantly. Assessing, calculating. The kind of eyes that saw details other people missed. She carried a rifle case. Custom job. Expensive. When she set it down, she did it with a care that spoke of something more than just equipment. Sergeant Mercer, Blackwood's voice carried across the room. Commander Garrett Blackwood, welcome to SEAL Team 7. She turned, snapped a crisp salute. Sir, thank you, sir. I knew your father, served with him briefly in Iraq. He was the finest sniper I ever met, saved a lot of lives, including mine indirectly. Yes, sir, he had that effect, sir. You aiming to live up to that legacy? The question hung in the air. Test, challenge, both. Sloan met his eyes, no hesitation, no uncertainty. No, sir, I'm aiming to build my own. Blackwood almost smiled. Almost. Fair enough, you've got perfect scores, 15 confirmed kills, impressive record for someone your age. But this isn't sniper school. This isn't Overwatch from 800 meters out. This is direct action, close quarters, bad odds. When things go wrong, I need operators who act, not think. You understand? Yes, sir, act with precision. Think before the trigger. Execute without hesitation. You ever hesitate in combat, Sergeant? The question hit like a fist. Sloan's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Memory. Pain. Wait. Once, sir. Won't happen again. You sure about that? Certain, sir. Blackwood studied her, saw the truth in her eyes. Whatever had happened, she carried it. Good. Operators who didn't carry the weight were the ones who made mistakes. You'll integrate with the team on a probationary basis. Standard operations. We've got a mission coming up. High-value target, direct action. You'll provide precision support from Overwatch. Questions? No, sir. Good. Your quarters are in Building 6. Report to the range at 0600 tomorrow. I want to see you shoot. Yes, sir. She picked up her rifle case, started to leave, stopped at the door. Sir, permission to speak freely. Granted. I know you lost your sister. I know she hesitated. I read the after-action report. It's why you're skeptical of female operators in direct action roles. Blackwood's expression hardened. That's above your pay grade, Sergeant. Yes, sir. But for what it's worth, I also lost someone because of hesitation. Mine. I carry that every day, and I promise you, sir, I will never let it happen to this team. I'm not here to prove a point about women in combat. I'm here to do a job, and I will do it, whether you believe me or not. She left before he could respond. Ramsey, who'd been listening from the adjacent office, stepped into the briefing room. She's got spine, Commander. Spine doesn't stop bullets, Lieutenant. But Blackwood was thinking about Rebecca, about Elijah Mercer, about a young woman with perfect scores and the weight of failure in her eyes. Maybe, just maybe, she might actually be ready, but he'd need proof. And proof only came one way in their line of work, through fire. Operation Silent Thunder, the briefing, October 12, 2014. The mission brief was classified top secret, need to know, which meant everyone in that room needed to know because all of them were going into harm's way. Blackwood stood at the front of the room, behind him a satellite image of a compound in eastern Afghanistan. Forest, mountains, no roads, the kind of place where people went to hide from the world. 8 SEAL operators sat in chairs. Wade Ironside Brennan, 41. Machine gunner, built like a bear. Finn Dalton, 39, explosives, quiet and methodical. Hayes Doc Sullivan, 37, medic, had saved more lives than he'd taken. Cole Preacher Whitmore, 46, oldest on the team, quoted scripture and shot like an Old Testament angel of death. Grant Thorne, 34, radio operator, MIT grad who'd chosen trigger time over tech money. Lieutenant Cade Ramsey, 30, executive officer, the brains behind Blackwood's brawn. Eli Vaughn, 22, newest member. Still had that look in his eyes like he wasn't quite sure he belonged. And Sloan Mercer, 28, designated marksman, still trying to prove she did. Gentlemen, Sergeant Mercer. Blackwood clicked to the next slide. Target is Khalid al-Rashid, known as the Engineer, Taliban bomb maker, responsible for 43 Coalition K1, as in the past 18 months, IEDs, VB, IEDs, suicide vests. This piece of shit is why we're pulling our people out of vehicles in pieces. The room was silent. Everyone had lost friends to IEDs. Intel says he's meeting with local Taliban commanders at this compound tomorrow at 1400 hours. We're going to crash that party, eliminate the engineer and as many of his leadership as possible. Ramsey clicked to the next image. Compound layout, single-story structures, defensive positions, forest on all sides. Approach is through 8 clicks of mountain terrain. We insert via MH60 at 0300. Hump in. Establish position by 1200. Confirm target presence. Execute at 1400. Blackwood pointed to a ridge line on the map. Mercer, you'll establish Overwatch here. 800 meters from the compound. Good elevation, clear sight lines. You provide precision fire support on threats outside the compound perimeter. Sloan studied the map. Her eyes traced the terrain. Elevation changes, wind patterns, lines of sight. Sir, if I move to this ridge here, she pointed to a position about 50 meters from Blackwood's designated spot. I'd have better coverage of the northern approach route. Enemy reinforcements would most likely come from that direction based on the nearby village. The room went quiet. New operator, first mission with the team, contradicting the commander's tactical plan. Blackwood's expression was stone. Sergeant Mercer, I've been planning direct action operations since before you could legally drink. The position I selected provides optimal coverage of the target area. Yes, sir, I'm just suggesting. I didn't ask for suggestions. I gave you an assignment. You'll establish Overwatch at the position I designate. You'll engage threats I identify. You'll follow orders. Are we clear? Sloane's jaw tightened, but her voice was steady. Crystal clear, sir. Good. Ironside, you're on the 240. Suppressive fire on my command. Finn, your breach in demo. Preacher Doc Thorne, standard entry stack. The briefing continued. Assignments, contingencies, extraction protocols, the mechanical details of organized violence. But Sloane's attention kept drifting back to that map, to the defensive positions that looked too good, to the forest that provided too much concealment, to the intelligence estimate that said 15 to 20 enemy combatants when the sophistication of those positions suggested more. Something was wrong. She'd learned in Alaska that nature told stories if you knew how to read them. Tracks in snow, patterns in vegetation. The difference between natural and human disruption. This compound told a story, and the story was ambush. But Blackwood had made his position clear. Follow orders, don't improvise. She thought about Sarah Brennan, about hesitation, about the 3 seconds that cost a life. Then she thought about her father, about 91 confirmed kills and the wisdom to know when to shoot and when to wait. This mission was going to go wrong. She could feel it. The way animals feel earthquakes before they happen. Instinct built from years of reading environments that wanted to kill you. The question was, when it went wrong, would Blackwood let her do what needed to be done? Or would orders and ego and skepticism about female operators prevent him from using his best precision asset when the moment mattered most? After the briefing back in her quarters, Sloan opened her rifle case. 2 rifles, her standard issue, Mk11 Mod 0, and her father's custom Remington 700. She ran her hand along the Remington stock, felt the engraving. EM91 confirmed, make them count. Dad, 26 confirmed kills now, counting the 14 from before SEAL integration and the 12 from the past month. Still 65 short of her father's count. But count wasn't the point. Her father had taught her that. Numbers were just data. What mattered was impact, precision, making each shot count for something more than just adding to a tally. Tomorrow on that ridge in Kandahar, she'd either prove she belonged with SEAL Team 7, or she'd prove Blackwood right that women couldn't handle the pressure of direct action. She loaded her magazines, checked her gear, ran through her pre-mission ritual, the same ritual her father had taught her in the Alaska wilderness. Breathe, focus, prepare, execute. And when the moment came when everything went wrong and lives hung in the balance, don't hesitate. Act, because hesitation killed Sarah Brennan, and Sloan Mercer had promised herself it would never happen again. Insertion October 13th, 2014, 0247 hours. The MH-60 Blackhawk carved through darkness like a blade through silk. Nap of the earth flying, low enough that Sloan could count individual trees in the sparse Afghan forest, high enough that Taliban lookouts wouldn't hear the turbines until the helicopter was already gone. 8 SEAL operators sat in the cargo bay. Nobody spoke. The rotor wash made conversation pointless, each man alone with whatever accommodations they'd made with mortality. Some prayed, some checked gear for the dozenth time, some just stared into middle distance, already fighting the battle in their minds. Sloan ran her pre-combat ritual. Mental inventory, physical verification, the liturgy of preparation that separated professionals from amateurs. Mk11, Model 0 rifle, Schmidt and Bender scope, 20 rounds per magazine, 6 magazines loaded with 7.62 NATO match-grade ammunition, 120 rounds total. Her father's Remington 700 is backup, custom, 300 Winchester Magnum, 3 10-round magazines, 30 rounds of surgical precision, Kestrel weather meter, laser rangefinder, night vision optics rated for moonless conditions, plate carrier with level 4 armor, 78 pounds of gear distributed across her frame. She'd humped heavier loads in Alaska, but Alaska didn't shoot back. Across the cargo bay, Eli Vaughn was trying not to look terrified. 22 years old, 3rd direct action mission. He'd performed adequately on the first 2. But adequate wasn't the same as ready. Adequate meant you followed the script. Ready meant you could improvise when the script burned. Their eyes met. Sloan nodded. Small gesture. Not reassurance exactly, just acknowledgement. We're all scared. The ones who aren't are either lying or dangerous. The crew chief held up 5 fingers. 5 minutes to insertion. The Black Hawk banked hard. Sloan's stomach lurched. Then they were descending fast. The pilots threading between ridgelines by night vision and pure skill. Threading needles in the dark at 120 knots. The kind of flying that looked effortless, but required a decade of practice and nerves of surgical steel. Touchdown was gentle as a kiss. Professional. The kind of flying that saved lives by not attracting attention. Go! 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 The crew chief's voice barely audible over the turbine scream. 8 SEALs and 1 sniper flowed out like water, spreading into defensive positions, scanning sectors. The Black Hawk lifted off before the last boot touched earth. 30 seconds on the ground, then gone. Just wind through pine trees and 8 kilometers of hostile terrain between them and the target. Lieutenant Ramsey took point. Blackwood moved with the main element. Sloan fell in at rear security. Her role until they reached the objective rally point. Then she'd split off. Climb to Overwatch. Become the angel nobody saw but everyone relied on. The movement was brutal in the way that only mountain warfare could be. 8 kilometers sounded manageable on a map, but 8 kilometers through elevation changes with 78 pounds of gear, while maintaining noise discipline transforms simple distance into trial by fire. Every step calculated, every sound analyzed, wind or animal or human. The difference could mean everything. Sloane's legs burned. Shoulders ached where the rifle slung across her back. Her right knee, the one she'd twisted during last month's training, throbbed with each uphill step. She ignored it all. Pain was just data. Discomfort was just the body complaining about being used for its designed purpose. They moved in tactical silence. Hand signals only. NVGs painting the world in shades of green. Every shadow evaluated. Every sound categorized and filed. The mental checklist never stopping. Threat or no threat. Engage or bypass. The constant calculus of staying alive. 3 hours of movement. Then they were in position, 1,200 meters from the target compound. Dawn still 2 hours away. Time to establish Overwatch and wait for the world to wake up and begin the violence. Blackwood's hand signals were crisp, precise. Sloan, North Ridge, 800 meters from compound. Establish position, report when set. She nodded, split from the main element. Began the careful climb to her designated position. Overwatch. The ridge offered solid tactical advantage, good elevation, clear sight lines to the compound, excellent fields of fire. Blackwood's planning was textbook. She'd expected nothing less from a commander with 20 years of direct action experience. But as Sloan settled into her hide and began scanning the target area through thermal optics, that nagging feeling from the briefing returned. Stronger now, more insistent. The feeling hunters get when the prey knows it's being hunted. Something was wrong. Through pre-dawn darkness using thermal imaging, she began counting heat signatures. Intelligence estimates had projected 15 to 20 enemy combatants. Standard security element for a high-value target meeting in hostile territory. Sloan counted 28 visible fighters, spaced in positions that spoke of professional military training rather than militia randomness. Overlapping fields of fire, mutual support, defensive depth, and those were just the ones thermal imaging could detect. She keyed her radio, whisper quiet. Phantom to actual, count 28 tangos visible, estimate higher, defensive positioning indicates professional training. Recommend we reassess the approach. Blackwood's response came immediately. Clipped and final. Actual to phantom, intel has been vetted through multiple sources. Maintain your position. Await orders. Sloan wanted to argue. Wanted to explain the patterns she was seeing, the discipline in their movements, the sophistication of their defensive network. All the signs that this wasn't a routine leadership meeting, but something else, something planned. But she'd already contradicted Blackwood once during the mission briefing. Pushing harder would only confirm his lingering doubts about whether she could follow orders under pressure. She settled deeper into her hide, made herself as comfortable as rocks, and adrenaline allowed. The sun would rise in 90 minutes. Then the waiting would end and the violence would begin. Dawn came slowly, pink and gold bleeding across the Hindu Kush mountains, beautiful and indifferent. Nature never cared about the violence men committed in her presence. Through her scope, Sloan watched the compound wake up, sentries rotating, morning cooking fires. The mundane routines of men who had no idea that 8 American operators were positioned to kill them. At 1320 hours, the HVT emerged. Khalid al-Rashid, the engineer. Satellite imagery had shown a man in his mid-40s, full beard, traditional dress, unremarkable in appearance, extraordinary in the devastation his bombs had caused. 43 coalition deaths, countless Afghans, all reduced to component parts by his expertise. He stood in a cluster with 3 other men, Taliban commanders. Sloan recognized 2 from intelligence photos. The third was unknown. They talked, gestured, planned more death. Phantom to actual. HVT confirmed. I have eyes on target. Actual copies. Stand by for execute order. The waiting stretched, every minute feeling like an hour. Sloan's heart rate remained steady, 55 beats per minute, same as always. But the anticipation built like pressure behind a dam. She thought about her father, wondered if he'd felt this before his 91 shots. This strange certainty that violence was inevitable and nothing could stop it. Just the question of who would survive. At 1400 hours exactly, SEAL Team 7 began their approach, the ambush. Through her scope, Sloan tracked Blackwood's element as they moved into assault position. Professional movement, good use of terrain, textbook execution of small unit tactics. They were 200 meters from the compound when the world exploded. Not an IED, coordinated small arms fire from multiple concealed positions. Positions Sloan hadn't spotted because they'd been camouflaged by professionals who understood thermal signatures and patient discipline. 40 Taliban fighters opened up simultaneously. PKM machine guns, AK-47s on full automatic, RPG-7s, a coordinated wall of lead designed to annihilate everything in the kill zone. SEAL Team 7 was in the center of it. Ambush all units, break contact. Blackwood's voice over the radio carried an edge Sloan had never heard from him. Not panic, but the sound of a commander watching his perfect plan disintegrate in real time. Through her scope, the tactical situation unfolded in terrible clarity. Finn Dalton went down first. PKM rounds stitched across his left leg. Femur shattered. He dropped behind cover, still returning fire but bleeding and immobile. Eli Vaughn froze completely, just stopped moving, standing in the open while bullets snapped past his head. Preacher grabbed the kid by his plate carrier and yanked him bodily behind a boulder. Probably saved his life. The compound had transformed from target to fortress. 50 fighters in prepared positions with interlocking fields of fire. This wasn't a meeting. This was a trap. And SEAL Team 7 had walked straight into it. Phantom, this is actual. Blackwood's voice was controlled but urgent. Cover our withdrawal. We're pulling back to Rally Point Crimson. Sloan's scope swept the battlefield, identified immediate threats. 12 fighters positioned to prevent the SEALs from breaking contact. Machine gunners, RPG teams, the enemy commander coordinating fire from a second-story window. She could engage those threats, drop them one by one, give the team suppressive fire for a fighting withdrawal. But they'd still lose. Mission would fail. The engineer would escape. And Finn's shattered leg would be for nothing. Or she could disobey direct orders. Could engage all 12 threats systematically. Could give Blackwood's team the suppression they needed not just to escape, but to complete the mission. The decision took 3 seconds. The same 3 seconds she'd hesitated before Sarah Brennan died. But this time was different. This time hesitation meant watching 8 Americans die. This time action meant saving them. Sarah's voice in her memory. Don't freeze, Sloan, her father's voice. Phantom hits when everything's wrong. Sloan keyed her radio. Negative, sir. I can eliminate the threat. Give me 5 minutes. Phantom, that is a direct order. Fall back to... She switched off the radio, cut the connection, committed fully to the choice that would either save 8 lives or end her career. Probably both. Sloan settled behind her rifle, controlled her breathing to combat rhythm, felt her heart rate drop to operational calm. 12 targets. Most would be dead in the next 5 minutes. Some would nearly kill her first. And when it was over, nothing would ever be the same. The symphony of precision. The first shot mattered most. It always did. First shot revealed her position, started the clock on counterfire, set the tone for everything that followed. Through her scope, the enemy commander filled her reticle. 547 meters, wind gusting between 8 and 12 miles per hour left to right. Temperature 41 degrees. Downhill angle -15 degrees. The calculations ran automatically. Years of her father's training compressed into instinct. Hold 2.1 mils right for wind, 0.3 mils low for downhill shot, lead half a body width because he was moving, slowly pacing, but moving. She thought Dad made 91. I'm at 26, this is number 27, make it count. Exhale to half breath, hold, gentle squeeze. The rifle fired. 547 meters down range, the bullet arrived 0.6 of a second later, traveling at 2,800 feet per second, and missed. Wind gust, last second shift. The bullet passed 6 inches right of his head. Damn it, first word since cutting comms. But panic wasn't in her vocabulary. Miss meant data. Data meant adjustment. Her father's training didn't allow for emotional responses, only tactical ones. Recalculate. Wind shifted hard. Now 12 steady right to left. Full value crosswind. Hold 3 mils left. Compensate, fire. The enemy commander's head snapped back violently. He dropped like gravity suddenly tripled. Dead before his body hit the ground. 1 down, 11 to go, clock running. The enemy fighters were trying to locate her position. A suppressed rifle at 500 meters didn't provide clean acoustic signature. They knew someone was shooting. They didn't know where. That advantage would last maybe 30 seconds. She intended to use every one. PKM gunner shredding Finn's position. 612 meters, moving to new firing position at combat pace. Leading moving targets was equal parts physics and intuition. Her father had taught the physics. Alaska had taught the intuition. 3 body widths at 600 meters for full sprint. But this fighter was tactical moving. Weapon up, half speed, 2 body widths, wind correction, fire. The bullet caught him center mass. Hydrostatic shock stopped his heart instantly. He went down hard. The PKM clattered across the rocks. Finn's position stopped taking concentrated fire. 2 down, 10 to go, rapid engagement now. 2 Taliban fighters flanking Eli's position. 580 meters, 20 meters apart. Both moving with purpose. This was muscle memory. Technique drilled until conscious thought became unnecessary. Engage, shift, acquire, engage. Flow like water between targets. First fighter, lead, squeeze. The round entered through his left temple. Catastrophic. He dropped mid-stride. 0.8 seconds. Shift scope. Acquire second target. He'd heard the shot. Was turning. Looking for the source. Fire. Center mass. Lung shot. He went down gasping. Wouldn't survive, but wasn't instant. 4 down, 8 to go. But now the enemy was reacting. Someone competent had spotted her muzzle flash. Someone trained. The rock face 6 inches from Sloane's head exploded into fragments. Stone shrapnel peppered her left cheek. Blood, not much, but enough to sting and blur her vision slightly. Counter sniper. Sloane rolled left immediately, tried to relocate before the next shot. But 78 pounds of gear doesn't move fast. Her knee caught rock. She went down hard. Gear shifted. Wind knocked from her lungs. 2 seconds of gasping paralysis while somewhere 650 meters away, a Taliban sniper was reacquiring her position for the kill shot. Her father's voice cut through the panic like a blade. Pain is information. Get up. Sloane got up. New position. 40 meters from her original hide. Less optimal angle. Worse sight lines, but unexposed to the counter sniper's last known position. Through her scope, she found him. Second-story window. Different building. Dragunov SV'd from the profile. Russian trained or Syrian. Professional. He was scanning methodically. Looking for her. Scope glinting in afternoon sun. Sloane settled her crosshairs on that glint. 647 meters. Shooting through a gap in the wall maybe 8 inches wide. Her father had made her practice shots like this in Alaska. Threading bullets through impossible spaces. Making precision look like accident. She fired. The bullet threaded the gap. Caught the counter sniper high right shoulder. Not a kill, but enough to make him drop his rifle and disappear deeper into the building. 4 down proper, 1 wounded, 7.5 remaining. And now everyone knew exactly where she was. Return fire intensified. AK rounds snapping overhead. PKM fire chewing rocks around her position. She had maybe 2 minutes before they maneuvered close enough to overrun her position or force another displacement. 2 minutes, 7.5 targets. The math was tight. RPG gunner, 701 meters, kneeling, weapon on shoulder, aiming at Blackwood's element. If that rocket launched, 3 SEALs would die. The pressure was immense. Miss and Americans died. Make it and they lived. Sarah Brennan's voice. Memory sharp as shrapnel. Don't hesitate. Her father's voice. Don't rush either. Balance. Sloane found that space between fear and haste where precision lived. The RPG gunner was 3 seconds from firing. Sloane put her crosshairs on his right shoulder, the shoulder bearing the launcher's weight. Fire. The bullet impacted. Shoulder destroyed. He dropped the RPG, collapsed sideways. 5 down proper, 1 wounded, 6.5 to go. But another fighter was already moving to pick up the RPG. 5 seconds. That's all she had. Her hands started shaking. Adrenaline, accumulated stress. The weight of lives dependent on steady hands. Her father had never shaken, not in 91 shots. Legend didn't include human weakness. But Sloane wasn't her father. She was herself, and herself included flaws. She forced the tremor down through pure will, applied technique over physiology, breathed through it. The second RPG gunner raised the launcher, sighted, prepared to send high explosive into American flesh. Sloane fired first. Headshot, clean. The fighter dropped. The RPG rolled away and unused. No third fighter reached for it. 6 down, 1 wounded, 5.5 to go. Through her scope, Sloane could see tactical dynamics shifting. The initial ambush had failed. The SEALs were using Hirsch suppression to maneuver. Blackwood adapting, using the chaos she created to regain initiative. But she wasn't finished. Three Taliban fighters consolidating behind a low stone wall, 890 meters, coordinating their fire. Professional, disciplined. Sloan would make them pay for that discipline. The farthest shot she'd ever attempted in combat. 890 meters meant extreme ballistic math. Wind drift could be 20 inches. Bullet drop could be 70 feet. Temperature, humidity, even Coriolis effect from Earth's rotation mattered at this range. But her father had taught her to feel it as much as calculate it, to let training and instinct merge into something that transcended either alone. Fighter at the doorway, partially exposed, just head and shoulders visible. She didn't think, just felt. Wind, distance, target movement. All of it processed somewhere deeper than conscious thought. Fire. 1.3 seconds flight time, long enough to watch impact through her scope. Watch his head snap back. Watch him fall. 7 down, 1 wounded, 4.5 to go. Fighter with radio. 590 meters, trying to call reinforcements. Partially concealed behind vehicle. Chest shot. Center mass. He dropped the radio. Fell behind the vehicle. Out of sight but definitely hit. 8 down, 1 wounded, 3.5 to go. Then pure luck masquerading as skill. Taliban fighter throwing grenade at Blackwood's element. Sloan caught the motion, trained her scope, fired as his arm extended in the throwing motion. The bullet hit him mid-throw. The grenade tumbled from his hand, fell short, detonated among clustered Taliban fighters. Killed 2 more, wounded 3. Unintentional fratricide by enemy grenade. But Sloan would take it. 10 down proper, 4 wounded. 1.5 original targets remaining. The battlefield had transformed. What began as Taliban ambush had become precision execution. 11 fighters dead or wounded, the survivors breaking, cohesion failing, fear spreading like fire through dry grass. They'd been in total control. Now they were being systematically destroyed by an invisible predator who killed with mathematical certainty. 2 shots left. That's all she needed. Enemy fighter trying to escape through tree line. Running hard. 734 meters. Full sprint. Panicked. Leading sprinting targets at that range required instinct built from years of hunting caribou in Alaska. Animals that didn't want to dom and moved with desperate speed. She led him by 4 body widths, accounted for wind, fired. The bullet caught him mid-stride. Tumbling impact. He went down rolling. Didn't move again. 11 down, 4 wounded, 1 to go. 4 minutes 41 seconds since first shot, the final shot. The last bodyguard and the HVT were running for vehicles, trying to escape. The engineer would be gone in 90 seconds if Sloan didn't stop him. 623 meters, 2 moving targets, threading through sparse forest, heading for a gap in the trees barely 6 inches wide, moving at speed. Sloan had 1 round left in her magazine. After this, she'd need to reload. 3 seconds of vulnerability. 3 seconds where return fire could end her. 1 shot, 1 chance. Everything on this bullet. She thought about Sarah Brennan. 3 seconds of hesitation that cost a life. She thought about her father. 91 confirmed, a legend she'd never equal. She thought about Eli Vaughn frozen in combat, about Finn bleeding out, about Blackwood's skepticism and her promise that she belonged. All of it compressed into this moment. This shot, this 1 bullet. The bodyguard and HVT were 10 feet apart, moving through the forest gap. 5 seconds until they passed the only clear shooting lane. Her father's voice, clear as if he was beside her on that ridge. Make them count, baby girl. Sloan chose the HVT, the engineer. Mission priority, lead by 4 body widths. Calculate wind at 623 meters. Account for downward angle. Temperature, humidity, barometric pressure. Every variable. Equations that would take computers minutes to solve. Sloan solved them in 2 seconds. Exhaled, held, squeezed. The rifle fired. The bullet flew. 623 meters, 1.2 seconds flight time. The engineer stumbled, fell, the back of his skull gone. Mission complete. The bodyguard kept running. Sloan was out of ammunition, couldn't engage. But it didn't matter. The priority target was dead. 4 minutes 47 seconds. 12 shots. 13 if you counted the correction. 11 enemies killed. 1 counter-sniper wounded. 1 bodyguard escaped. And 1 Taliban ambush completely destroyed. Sloan slumped behind her rifle, hands shaking violently now, adrenaline dump hitting like a physical force. Blood on her face from rock fragments. knee screaming, shoulders burning, lungs raw, but alive and victorious. Extraction. Below SEAL Team 7 was securing the compound. Combat sounds fading, being replaced by the methodical sounds of professional operators clearing structures and confirming kills. Sloan reloaded on pure muscle memory, her hands doing the work while her brain tried to process what just happened. She disobeyed direct orders, cut communications, engaged 12 enemies in under 5 minutes from a static position, made shots that would be studied in sniper courses for years. Career suicide or career defining? Possibly both. Her radio crackled. She'd switched it back on after the shooting stopped. Phantom, this is actual. Blackwood's voice. Completely unreadable. Status report? Sloan keyed her mic, her voice steadier than her hands. Winchester, sir. Ammunition expended. 12 tangos eliminated. 1 wounded. HVT confirmed. KEIA. Area secure from Overwatch. Long silence. Just static and wind. Then, understood. Hold position. We're coming to you. 20 minutes later, 8 SEAL operators stood on the ridge where Sloan had just redefined what one sniper could accomplish. Finn Dalton was being carried, leg wounds stabilized by Doc Sullivan. Bleeding controlled. He'd live, but this deployment was over. Through the pain and medication, Finn looked at Sloan. Phantom, they told me you dropped the PKM gunner who had me pinned. My girls, his voice caught. Emma and the girls still have a husband and dad, thank you. Emma, 3 daughters, ages Sloan didn't know. People who existed because she'd made one shot at 612 meters. The weight of lives saved was somehow heavier than lives taken. Eli Vaughn looked shell-shocked, the 1,000-yard stare of someone who just understood his own mortality. Preacher had an arm around the kid's shoulders, silent support. Blackwood approached slowly, taking in the shell casings scattered around her hide, 13 total, looking down at the compound, at bodies visible even from this range, at the tactical situation that had transformed from catastrophic ambush to complete victory in under 5 minutes. Then he looked at Sloan. Really looked, seeing her for the first time not as legacy or political statement, but as what she actually was. You cut communications. Statement of fact. Yes, sir. Disobeyed direct orders. Yes, sir. Engaged 12 enemies from static position while under counter sniper fire. 11 confirmed kills, sir. 1 was correction shot on same target. Counter sniper escaped wounded. I failed to eliminate him. Blackwood's expression was granite. He studied the compound again. The shell casings. Sloan's bloodied face. Your father took an 1,800-meter shot in a Mosul sandstorm. Saved my life. I thought that was the finest piece of marksmanship I'd ever witnessed. Pause, the whole team listening. I was wrong. What you just did, he shook his head slowly. Explain to me what the hell just happened down there. Sloan met his eyes, saw something she'd never seen before. Not skepticism, not doubt, genuine respect mixed with awe. Threat eliminated, sir. Area secure. Recommend we continue with primary mission objectives. Blackwood almost smiled. Almost. Primary mission is complete, Sergeant, thanks to you. Finn needs immediate medevac. We're extracting. He keyed his radio, called for the Black Hawk. Coordinated extraction, being the commander. But his eyes kept returning to Sloan, reassessing everything he thought he knew. Grant Thorne approached. Phantom, that 890 shot I was lasing it, wind gusting 12 to 15. You threaded that through an 8-inch window. How? Sloan was gathering her gear. Every movement hurt. My father taught me impossible is just an excuse for not trying hard enough. Wade Brennan laughed, deep and genuine. Mercer, you just saved all our asses. I'm buying you a drink. Hell, I'm buying you a case. I don't drink Ironside. Then I'm buying you whatever you do drink and carrying your gear for a month. That was the finest shooting I've ever seen. And I've seen some shooting. The praise felt uncomfortable. Wrong. 11 men were dead because she'd pulled a trigger. Yes, they were enemy combatants who would have killed Americans. But they were still dead, and she'd killed them. Her father's voice. You'll carry every shot. She would, all 26 previous, all 11 new ones, for the rest of her life. But Sarah Brennan was dead too. And if Sloan had acted 5 months ago the way she'd acted today, Sarah might still be alive. Might be home with her 2 kids. Might be planning that teaching career. The helicopter arrived 30 minutes later. Smooth extraction, the pilots asking no questions about the slaughterhouse below. In the cargo bay, Sloan sat alone, not isolated. The team gave her space. The respectful space you give someone who'd just done something that required processing. Finn was on the stretcher, Doc monitoring vitals, stable, lucky. The PKM rounds had missed his femoral artery by millimeters. Across the bay, Blackwood was writing his after-action report. Every few seconds, his eyes drifted to Sloan, then back to his notepad, trying to find words for what happened. The flight to Bagram took 40 minutes. Nobody spoke. Just turbine whine and the weight of combat settling on 8 operators who'd walked into an ambush and walked out alive. When they landed, when the wheels touched tarmac and the mission officially ended, Blackwood stood. Gentlemen and Sergeant Mercer, what happened today stays between us until formal debrief. Understood. Yes, sir. 8 voices in unison. We walked into an ambush that should have killed every one of us. We survived because one operator made a tactical decision that violated orders but saved American lives. The implications of that decision will be addressed later. Right now, I want everyone to understand something. He looked directly at Sloan. Sergeant Mercer did exactly what SEALs are supposed to do. She adapted. She overcame. She won. Gender didn't matter. Politics didn't matter. What mattered was precision, courage, and the willingness to make the hard call when the mission demanded it. Pause. Let it sink in. Phantom, you're no longer probationary. You're permanent assignment to this team. I owe you an apology. You were right about the defensive positions, right about the threat count, right about everything. I should have listened. That mistake nearly cost 8 lives. It won't happen again. Sloan stood, saluted. Thank you, sir. But the mission isn't about being right. It's about outcomes. We completed the objective. The team survived. That's what matters. Blackwood returned the salute. Dismissed. Debrief tomorrow at 0800. Get some rest. You've earned it. The team filed out. Sloan was last. Blackwood stopped her at the ramp. Off the record, Sergeant. What you did today, your father would have been proud. I think you just surpassed him. Sloan thought about that. About 91 confirmed versus her 37. About legacy and pressure and the impossible weight of living up to legends. With respect, sir, I'm not trying to surpass my father. I'm just trying to honor what he taught me. Make every shot count. Carry the weight. Never hesitate when lives hang in the balance. Blackwood nodded, understanding. Get some rest, Phantom. Something tells me this is just the beginning. Sloan walked across the tarmac toward her quarters. The sun setting over Afghanistan, painting the sky in colors that didn't belong in a war zone. She thought about Sarah Brennan, her father. 11 Taliban fighters who'd woken up that morning not knowing they had hours to live. 37 confirmed kills now. Still 54 short of her father's count. But count wasn't the point. It never had been. Impact was the point. And today she'd impacted the outcome. Saved 8 lives. Completed the mission. Proved that legacy wasn't about matching numbers, but making shots that mattered when everything was on the line. In her quarters, she field stripped her rifle. Cleaned it with ritual precision. Blood and gunpowder washed away. Preparation for next time. Her hands had stopped shaking. Her knees still throbbed. Face still stung from rock fragments. But she was alive. Her team was alive. And for the first time since Sarah Brennan died, Sloan Mercer felt like maybe she could live with the weight she carried. Because her father had taught her the final lesson. The one that mattered most. It's not about perfect shooting. It's about making the decision, accepting the consequence, and carrying the weight with honor. Sloan had done that today. And she'd do it again tomorrow if the mission required it. Because that's what phantoms do. They haunt battlefields. They eliminate threats. They save lives, and they disappear into legend one precise shot at a time. 72 hours later, the after-action review room at Bagram Air Base smelled like coffee and tension. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. A digital projector displayed satellite imagery of the compound where 11 Taliban fighters had died in under 5 minutes. Commander Garrett Blackwood stood at the head of the conference table. Lieutenant Ramsey to his right, 2 intelligence officers from JSOC, a JAG lawyer, and Sloan Mercer sitting alone on the opposite side, waiting to learn if she'd saved 8 lives or ended her career. The JAG lawyer spoke first. Captain Patricia Hendricks, 40-something, steel gray hair pulled back tight, the kind of lawyer who'd prosecuted war crimes and defended operators in equal measure. No nonsense, just law. Sergeant Mercer, you are aware that cutting communications with your commanding officer during active combat operations violates Article 92 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Failure to obey orders. Yes, ma'am. You are also aware that Commander Blackwood gave you a direct order to maintain your position and cover the team's withdrawal, an order you explicitly disobeyed. Yes, ma'am. In your own words, Sergeant, explain your decision. Sloan had rehearsed this. 3 days to prepare her defense. But all the rehearsal in the world couldn't change the simple truth. Ma'am, I assessed the tactical situation and determined that following orders would result in mission failure and likely friendly casualties. I made a judgment call that engaging the immediate threats would provide the team opportunity to complete the primary objective while minimizing risk to American lives. Captain Hendricks studied her. You made a judgment call as a sergeant, overruling your commander, a man with 20 years of combat experience. Yes, ma'am. That's quite an assumption of authority for someone on their first mission with a SEAL team. Blackwood cleared his throat. Captain, if I may. Hendricks nodded. Blackwood stood, addressed the room but looked at Sloan. Sergeant Mercer's assessment was correct. My tactical plan was based on intelligence that proved inaccurate. We were facing 40-plus hostiles in prepared positions, not the 15 to 20 estimated. My order to withdraw would have saved lives, but it would have meant mission failure. The HVT would have escaped. Sergeant Mercer's intervention eliminated that threat and 11 others who would have continued killing Americans. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. I was wrong. She was right. And 8 operators are alive because she had the courage to make the hard call. The JSOC intelligence officer spoke up. Commander Sarah Walsh, Navy, 45. Career intel analyst who'd seen enough combat footage to know exceptional when she saw it. Commander Blackwood, the helmet cam footage from your team members shows Sergeant Mercer engaged 12 targets at ranges from 547 meters to 890 meters in 4 minutes 47 seconds under counter-sniper fire, with 11 confirmed kills and 1 wounded. Is that assessment accurate? Yes, ma'am. And the final shot, the one that killed the HVT, your report says 623 meters, moving target threading through a 6-inch gap in terrain. Correct. Correct. Commander Walsh looked at Sloan. Sergeant Mercer, I've been analyzing sniper engagements for 20 years. What you did is statistically improbable to the point of being nearly impossible. Can you explain how you made those shots? Sloan thought about Alaska, about her father, about 10,000 hours of practice in conditions that would break most people. Ma'am, my father taught me that precision is just preparation, meeting opportunity. I prepared my entire life for that moment. When the opportunity came, I executed. Walsh nodded slowly. Your father was Sergeant Major Elijah Mercer, 91 confirmed kills, Silver Star recipient, killed in action 2 years ago. Yes, ma'am. You're trying to live up to that legacy. No, ma'am. Sloan's voice was firm, clear. I'm trying to build my own. My father taught me skills. But the choices I make are mine. The shots I take are mine. The weight I carry is mine. The room went quiet. Just the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant sound of helicopters on the flight line. Captain Hendricks reviewed her notes, looked at Blackwood, looked at Sloan. Sergeant Mercer, under normal circumstances, disobeying direct orders in combat would result in court-martial. However, these are not normal circumstances. Commander Blackwood has recommended you for a Bronze Star with Valor device for actions that directly saved American lives and eliminated a high-value target. She paused. Let that sink in. The recommendation has been approved. You will also receive a formal letter of reprimand in your service record for failure to follow orders. Both are deserved. Both will be entered into your permanent file. Do you understand? Yes, ma'am. Good. This review is concluded. Dismissed. Sloan stood, saluted, walked out of the room into the harsh Afghan sunlight. Bronze Star and a reprimand. Medal for heroism and mark against her career. Both true. Both earned. The contradiction didn't bother her. Combat wasn't about clean narratives. It was about hard choices and living with consequences. Finn Dalton was being medevaced stateside the next morning. Leg surgery at Walter Reed, 6 months recovery, maybe longer. The PKM rounds had shattered his femur. Doc Sullivan had done brilliant field medicine, but some wounds required specialists. Sloan visited him in the hospital tent. He was lucid, medicated but aware. His right leg wrapped in surgical dressing and elevated. Phantom. His voice was rough. Painkillers and exhaustion. They told me you killed 11 tangos to get me out. I killed 11 tangos to complete the mission. Getting you out was just good tactics. Finn laughed. Winced at the pain it caused. You're a terrible liar. Thank you. My daughters still have a father because of you. Sloan didn't know what to say to that. The weight of lives saved was somehow heavier than lives taken. Responsibility without the clean finality of death. You would have done the same. Maybe, but I didn't. You did. That matters. He reached out his hand. She took it. When I get stateside, my wife wants to meet you. The woman who saved her husband. She's going to try to hug you. Fair warning. I'll prepare myself. Phantom that shot on the PKM gunner, the one shredding my position. I watched the after-action footage. 700 meters. Wind gusting. You made that look easy. It wasn't. I know. That's why it was impressive. He squeezed her hand. You're the real deal. Don't let anyone tell you different. Not because you're a woman trying to prove something, but because you're a damn fine operator who happens to be a woman. There's a difference. I know the difference. Good. Now get out of here. I need to sleep before they cut me open again. Sloan left the hospital tent. The sun was setting. Another day in Afghanistan, ending in fire and gold. Beautiful and terrible, and indifferent. 5 weeks later, the mission was supposed to be routine. Patrol near the Pakistan border. Show of force. Gather intelligence. The kind of operation that SEAL Team 7 could run in their sleep. But routine was a word that got operators killed. They were 12 kilometers from base when the ambush hit. Professional, coordinated. Not the chaotic spray and pray of militia fighters. This was calculated violence executed by someone who knew what they were doing. The first shot missed Blackwood by 6 inches, snapped past his head, and punched through the Humvee's windshield behind him. Sniper, take cover. 8 operators scattered, seeking whatever protection the sparse terrain offered. Rocky outcroppings, dead ground, the mathematical angles that kept you alive when someone was trying to end you from 600 meters away. Sloan was already moving, instinct and training merging into action, her mind cataloging data, single shot, suppressed, professional spacing between trigger pull and next engagement. This wasn't random. This was a hunter who knew his craft. Through her scope, she scanned the terrain, looking for the tells, scope glint, muzzle flash, the slight movement that betrayed a hidden position. There, 700 meters, elevated position, partial concealment behind rock formation. She caught the briefest flash of reflected light. Contact, 700 meters, 11 o'clock, single shooter. Blackwood's voice over radio. Phantom, can you engage? Affirm, stand by. But the enemy sniper was good. He'd already moved. The position Sloan had spotted was abandoned. He was repositioning, using the terrain, making himself hard to find. This wasn't some Taliban conscript with an old Dragunov. This was someone trained, someone professional, someone familiar. The second shot came from a different angle. Caught Wade Ironside Brennan's pack, tore through nylon and gear. If Wade had been standing straight instead of crouched, the bullet would have hit center mass. Sloan's mind raced. Professional sniper, knows SEAL tactics, engaging from multiple positions. This felt personal, targeted. Then she saw him. Brief glimpse through her scope, moving between positions, and she recognized the pattern of movement, the slight favor of his right shoulder. The counter sniper from Kandahar. The one she'd wounded with shot number 7. The one who'd escaped. He was back, and he wanted revenge. Actual, this is Phantom. I know this shooter. Kandahar counter sniper. The one I wounded. He's here for me. Copy, Phantom. Can you eliminate? Sloan was already moving, relocating to better position. The counter sniper knew her tactics, had studied her, was using that knowledge to predict her movements. She needed to be unpredictable. The third shot nearly killed her. Impacted the rock face where she'd been 3 seconds earlier. Stone fragments exploded. One piece caught her rifle scope, shattered the lens. Glass and metal fragments peppered her face. Blood, not much, but enough to obscure her vision. Her primary optic was destroyed. The MK-11 was compromised. She had seconds before the next shot. Sloan rolled left, grabbed her backup rifle. Her father's custom Remington 700, the one with 91 etched into the stock. The one she'd carried through every mission but never fired in combat. Until now. The scope was different. Loophole Mark IV instead of Schmidt and Bender. Parallax adjustment unfamiliar. Reticle design slightly off from what she was used to. But her father had shot 91 confirmed kills with this rifle. If it was good enough for him, it was good enough for her. She wiped blood from her eyes, blinked to clear her vision. Scanned for the counter sniper. Movement 640 meters. He was repositioning again. Professional, disciplined. But in that movement, he exposed himself for half a second. Half a second was all Sloan needed. But her vision was compromised, blood still seeping from the cuts on her face. The scope's image kept blurring. She couldn't see clearly enough to make a precision shot. Her father's voice. Memory from Alaska, teaching her to hunt in blizzard conditions when visibility was zero. When you can't see, feel. Wind on your skin. Sound of the target's movement. Trust your instinct. Your body knows even when your eyes don't. Sloane closed her eyes, took a breath, let her other senses take over. The wind was steady, 8 miles per hour, left to right. She could feel it on her exposed skin. Constant, predictable. The target was at 640 meters. She knew that from the last glimpse before her vision blurred. He was moving right. She could hear the slight scrape of his gear against rock. 640 meters, 8-mile-per-hour crosswind, moving target, compromised vision, impossible shot. But her father had taught her that impossible was just an excuse. Sloane opened her eyes, squinted through blood and damaged vision, found the target, blurry, indistinct. But there, she held for wind, led the movement, applied every lesson her father had ever taught her, and trusted. The Remington fired, the familiar recoil, the same rifle her father had used to save lives and end threats across 4 deployments. 640 meters away, the counter-sniper's head snapped back. He dropped like a puppet with cut strings. Through her blurred vision, Sloane watched him fall, watched other Taliban fighters scatter, watched the ambush disintegrate as their sniper died. Phantom to actual, threat eliminated, counter-sniper down. Blackwood's voice carried something Sloane had never heard before, awe mixed with disbelief. Phantom, your scope is shattered. How did you make that shot? Sloane wiped more blood from her eyes, looked at her father's rifle, the one with 91 etched in the stock. My father taught me that the rifle is just a tool. The shot comes from somewhere else. 20 minutes later, they secured the body. Syrian passport. Professional military identification. Former Syrian Arab Army sniper instructor. Name Fadi Hassan, age 43. Confirmed kills unknown, but estimated over 60 based on documentation found on his person. He'd been the sniper Sloane wounded in Kandahar, had survived, had tracked her for 5 weeks, had come back for revenge, and had died trying. Doc Sullivan cleaned the cuts on Sloane's face. Glass fragments removed, antiseptic applied, would leave small scars. Reminders of the day she made a 640-meter shot with compromised vision using her dead father's rifle. Phantom, Doc said quietly, that shot shouldn't have been possible. Shattered scope, blood in your eyes, moving target. How? I had help. She looked at the Remington. My father made 91 impossible shots with this rifle. Today it made 92. Wade Brennan approached, held out Sloane's damaged MK-11, the scope completely destroyed. Phantom, this round hit your scope dead center, 6 inches lower, and it would have been your head. You know that? I know. That Syrian bastard was good. Maybe the best enemy sniper I've seen in 4 deployments. And you killed him while half blind. Wade shook his head. I'm never doubting you again. Ever. About anything. You say the sky is green, I'm agreeing. Sloane almost smiled. Almost. But 11 Taliban fighters in Kandahar and 1 Syrian sniper here didn't feel like victory. It felt like weight. More names added to a list she'd carry forever. 38 confirmed kills now. 53 short of her father's count. But she was starting to realize that count wasn't the point, the conversation. That night, back at base, Blackwood requested a private meeting. His office. No witnesses, just commander and operator. Sloane reported as ordered, stood at attention. At ease, Sergeant. Sit. She sat. Blackwood studied her for a long moment. The small cuts on her face from the scope fragments. The calm in her eyes that came from having made peace with death. I need to tell you about my sister, he said finally. Lieutenant Commander Rebecca Blackwood, Apache pilot, killed in action 5 years ago. Sloane stayed silent, listening. She was 29, brilliant pilot, top of her class at flight school. 3 deployments, Distinguished Flying Cross. The kind of officer who made you proud to serve with her. Blackwood's voice carried weight. Old grief that hadn't healed. She died because she hesitated. He pulled up a file on his computer, turned the screen towards Sloane. Mission brief, after-action report, a story written in military bureaucracy. Rebecca was providing air support for a Marine patrol. Taliban technical vehicle mounted with heavy machine gun. Marines were pinned down, taking casualties. Rebecca had clear shot with her 30mm cannon. Could have eliminated the threat in seconds. Blackwood paused, stared at the screen. But the technical was parked next to a mosque. Intel said the mosque was empty, but Rebecca could see movement inside. Couldn't confirm if it was civilians or fighters. She hesitated, asked for confirmation, waited for orders. 3 minutes. That's how long she waited. Sir, 3 minutes isn't. 3 minutes was enough. Taliban repositioned, shot her down with an RPG. She died on impact, 29 years old, because she hesitated when the moment required action. Sloan understood now, all of it. The skepticism about female operators, the emphasis on acting without hesitation, the way Blackwood had questioned her ability to flip the switch. Sir, with respect, that wasn't hesitation. That was following rules of engagement, protecting civilians. I know. Blackwood's voice was quiet. Intellectually, I know that. But emotionally, I've spent 5 years believing that women hesitate in combat, that there's something different, some biological or psychological factor that makes split-second violence harder for women than men. He looked directly at Sloan. You've proved me wrong, twice now. In Kandahar, you made 11 kills in 5 minutes under counter-sniper fire. Today, you made an impossible shot while wounded and half-blind. You didn't hesitate. You didn't freeze. You acted with precision and courage that would make any operator on any team proud. Sloan waited, knowing there was more. But more than that, you made the right call when I made the wrong one. You saw what I missed. You assessed the tactical situation better than I did. And you had the courage to disobey orders when following them would have cost lives. Blackwood leaned forward. That's not about gender. That's about being an exceptional operator. Period. Ooh, sir, I'm not. Let me finish, Sergeant. I owe you this. I've been protecting myself from grief by assuming all female operators would hesitate like Rebecca did. That's not fair to them. It's not fair to you. And it's not fair to Rebecca's memory. She made a judgment call based on incomplete information and a desire to protect civilians. That's not weakness. That's humanity. Something we need more of in this work, not less. He stood, walked to the window, looked out at the Afghan darkness. You're not trying to prove anything about women in combat. I get that now. You're just doing the job, being the operator you were trained to be, and you happen to be the best sniper I've ever worked with. Male or female doesn't matter. What matters is precision judgment and the courage to act when the moment requires it. Blackwood turned back, extended his hand. I was wrong about you, Sergeant Mercer. I apologize. Not as your commander. As a man who let his grief cloud his judgment, you've earned your place on this team 100 times over. And I'm honored to serve with you. Sloan stood, shook his hand. Sir, you don't owe me an apology. You made tactical calls based on your experience. I made different calls based on mine. We're both trying to complete the mission and keep the team alive. That's all that matters. Maybe, but I still needed to say it. Blackwood released her hand. You're being reassigned, not because of any failure, but because of success. Sloan's stomach dropped. Sir, relax. It's a promotion. Sort of. Naval Special Warfare Command wants you as senior marksmanship instructor at the training center, teaching the next generation of SEAL snipers, both male and female candidates. The offer hung in the air like cordite smoke. Sir, I'm at 38 confirmed kills. My father had 91. I haven't finished. Sergeant, your father's legacy isn't a number. It's the impact he had, the lives he saved, the operators he trained. Blackwood's voice was firm. You can stay operational. Chase that number, get to 91 or beyond, or you can multiply your impact. Train 200 snipers who'll each save dozens of lives. Do the math. Which option honors your father's legacy more? Sloan thought about that, about Alaska, about her father's last words engraved on a rifle. Make them count. How long do I have to decide, sir? 72 hours. But Sergeant, I'm being promoted to Admiral, overseeing all NSW training programs. My first official act will be requesting you as my senior instructor. Not because you're a woman, not because of politics, but because you're the best teacher I can get for the crew. You make operators better. That's rarer than being able to shoot. 3 days later, Sloan called home, not to the cabin in Alaska. That was empty now, sold after her father's death to a retired couple who didn't know its history. She called her father's old friend, Master Sergeant Richard Tate, retired, living in Idaho, the man who'd served with Elijah Mercer in Iraq and carried his body off the field in Afghanistan. Sloan, good to hear from you. How's the war? Complicated. I need advice. Shoot. She explained the offer, the choice between operational work and instruction, between chasing her father's kill count and multiplying her impact through teaching. Tate was quiet for a long moment. Your old man and I had a conversation the night before he died. Didn't know it would be the last one. But he told me something, said if anything happened to him, I needed to tell you this. What? He said, tell Sloan the numbers don't matter. I got to 91, and you know what it means? 91 times I had to make a choice, someone else didn't. That's not an achievement, that's a burden. What matters is impact. If she can save lives without taking them, that's better. If she can teach others to make good choices, that's better. The legacy I want isn't 91 kills. It's 91 lives saved by people I trained. Sloan felt something in her chest tighten. He said that word for word. Your dad knew he might not come back from that mission. He wanted you to know that matching his count wasn't the goal. Exceeding his impact was. Thank you, Master Sergeant. Anytime, kid, make the choice that lets you live with yourself. Everything else is just noise. Sloan made her decision that night. 6 months later. The Naval Special Warfare Center in Coronado, California was about as far from Afghanistan as geography and culture allowed. Palm trees instead of dust. Ocean instead of mountains. Safety instead of constant threat. Master Sergeant Sloan Mercer stood in front of 43 sniper candidates, 39 men, 4 women, all volunteers, all tested, all trying to earn the title that her father had held with such distinction. My name is Master Sergeant Mercer. I'll be your primary instructor for advanced marksmanship and tactical employment. Some of you know who my father was. Some of you know my record. 38 confirmed kills. Bronze Star, Silver Star pending approval. None of that matters here. She paced in front of them, letting them see the small scars on her face from scope fragments, letting them understand that she'd earned her position through fire. What matters is this precision shooting is 10% mechanics and 90% decision-making. Anyone can learn to hit a target at 1,000 meters in perfect conditions. This course will teach you to hit that target when everything is wrong. Wind, rain, stress, fear. When lives depend on a single shot and you only get one chance. One of the female candidates raised her hand. 23 years old, Marine, top marks from basic sniper course. Ma'am, some people say women can't handle the psychological pressure of precision shooting in combat. What do you say to that? Sloan looked at her, saw herself at that age. Uncertain, trying to prove something. I say that's garbage. I've shot alongside male operators who froze under pressure and female operators who performed flawlessly. Gender doesn't determine performance. Training does. Discipline does. The willingness to make the hard choice and live with the consequence does. She paused. But I'll also tell you this. You'll face doubt from others, from yourself. Use it. Let it make you better. Train harder because of it. Prove through performance, not argument. And when the moment comes when someone's life depends on your shot, don't think about gender or politics or proving anything. Just make the shot. That's all. The course was brutal. Designed to break candidates who couldn't handle the pressure. Sloan had helped redesign it. Less focus on perfect range scores. More focus on decision-making under stress. Shoot/no-shoot scenarios. Civilian presence. Incomplete information. Time pressure. The real complexity of combat distilled into training exercises. 3 candidates washed out in the first week, 2 more in the second. Not because they couldn't shoot, but because they couldn't decide. Couldn't live with the weight of being the person who pulled the trigger or chose not to. But the ones who stayed got better. Remarkably better. Sloan taught them her father's lessons. Patience over speed. Precision over volume. Making each shot count. She taught them the math and the feel. The science and the art. And she taught them the weight. You'll remember every shot you take in anger, she told them during a night class on combat psychology. Every kill, every near miss that could have saved someone. That weight doesn't go away. You learn to carry it, to use it, to let it make you better instead of breaking you. One of the male students, a SEAL who'd been skeptical of female instruction, at first approached her after class. Ma'am, can I ask you something off the record? Go ahead. That shot in Kandahar, the 623-meter kill on the HVT, threading through a 6-inch gap, that's in the case studies we're studying. How did you make it? Sloan thought about that moment. The pressure, the stakes, everything on a single bullet. I made it because I'd made 10,000 practice shots before it. I made it because my father taught me that impossible is just unpracticed. And I made it because 11 men were counting on me to not hesitate when the moment came. But the mental pressure, the knowledge that missing meant mission failure. How did you handle that? I didn't think about failure. I thought about the mechanics. Wind, distance, lead time, breaking it down into solvable problems instead of one overwhelming decision. That's the key. Don't think about the outcome. Think about the process. The outcome takes care of itself. The student nodded, understanding. Thank you, ma'am. That helps. Over the following months, Sloan's program produced 73 graduates, male and female. Each one tested under conditions that simulated combat stress. Each one capable of making the hard decisions. And in the months and years that followed, those 73 snipers saved lives, eliminated threats, made the shots that mattered. Sloan kept track, not obsessively, but enough to know, enough to measure impact. 217 confirmed lives saved by her students. Enemy combatants eliminated. Hostages rescued. Friendly forces protected. 217. More than twice her father's 91. Not because she was a better shooter, but because she'd chosen to multiply her impact instead of chasing a number. Admiral Garrett Blackwood visited the training center 2 years after Sloan accepted the instructor position. He watched her teach, watched her students perform, saw the results of precision instruction combined with tactical wisdom. After the class, they walked along the beach, ocean on one side, training facilities on the other, the place where warriors were forged. You've changed Naval Special Warfare, Sergeant. You know that? I'm just teaching, sir. You're doing more than that. You're changing how we think about snipers, about precision shooting, about the psychology of combat decisions. Blackwood stopped, looked at her. Your father would be proud, not because you matched his kill count, but because you exceeded his impact. Sloan looked out at the ocean, thought about Alaska, about her father, about Sarah Brennan and Finn Dalton, and all the lives that intersected with hers. Sir, can I ask you something about Rebecca? Always. Do you think she made the right call, hesitating to protect civilians? Blackwood was quiet for a long moment. I think she made the human call, the one that valued life over mission completion, and I think the world needs more people who make that choice, not fewer. She died because of it, but she died with her humanity intact. That matters. Yes, sir, it does. They walked in silence. Just the sound of waves and distant gunfire from the training ranges. You're being considered for promotion, Blackwood said finally. Sergeant First Class, maybe higher. Command wants to keep you in instruction, make you the face of integrated special operations training. I don't want to be a face, sir. I just want to teach. I know, that's why you're good at it. Blackwood smiled, genuine, warm. But fair warning, your students are requesting you by name. Male and female candidates both. Word is spreading. The best sniper instructor in Naval Special Warfare is a woman who made 12 kills in 5 minutes in a blind shot at 640 meters. That's a story that gets told. Stories don't matter, sir. Results do. Sometimes stories create results, inspire people, show what's possible. Blackwood stopped walking, extended his hand. Thank you, Sergeant Mercer, for proving me wrong, for making this program better, for being exactly the operator and instructor we needed. Sloan shook his hand. Thank you for giving me the chance, sir. Even when you didn't believe in it, I believe now. That's what matters. Present day. The graduation ceremony for Sniper Class 237 took place on a perfect California morning. 73 candidates started, 41 finished, each one tested, each one ready. Master Sergeant Sloan Mercer stood at the podium. Behind her, the Pacific Ocean stretched to infinity. Before her, 41 warriors who would carry the skills she'd taught them into harm's way. Congratulations. You've completed one of the most demanding courses in Naval Special Warfare. You've earned the title of sniper, but that title comes with weight. She paused, let them feel it. You'll make shots that save lives. You'll make shots that end them. You'll carry every decision, every trigger pull, every moment when you chose to shoot or chose not to. That weight doesn't go away. You learn to carry it with honor. Among the graduates was Lance Corporal Jennifer Watts, 24, Marine, top shot in her class, first female Marine to graduate Naval Special Warfare Sniper course at the top of her class. Sloan called her forward, presented her with a special award, her father's backup Remington 700, the rifle that had made 92 confirmed kills. The rifle that represented legacy and precision and the weight of doing hard things well. This rifle belonged to my father, Sergeant Major Elijah Mercer. 91 confirmed kills with it. I made the 92nd. A blind shot at 640 meters when I should have died instead. Sloan held the rifle, felt its familiar weight. It's yours now. Take care of it. Use it well. And remember that the rifle is just a tool. The shot comes from who you are. Make them count. Jennifer took the rifle, tears in her eyes, understanding the weight of what she'd just received. After the ceremony, Sloan walked alone to the cliff overlooking the ocean, pulled out her phone, video called Arlington National Cemetery. The connection wasn't great, but she could see her father's headstone, Sergeant Major Elijah Mercer, 1961 to 2012, 91 confirmed, Silver Star, a life measured in precision and impact. "Hey, Dad," she said quietly, "graduated another class today. 41 more snipers who will save lives you'll never meet. I gave Jennifer your rifle. The one you used for 91, the one I used for 92. Seemed right that it keeps working." The wind off the ocean carried her words away. "I'm at 38 confirmed kills, 53 short of your count. But I think I finally understand what you were trying to teach me. It's not about the number, it's about the impact. And if I count the lives saved by my students, I'm at 217 and counting." She wiped her eyes, not crying, just the wind. "Master Sergeant Richard Tate told me what you said before you died, about wanting your legacy to be lives saved, not lives taken. I get it now. I'm doing that. Teaching others to make the hard choices, to carry the weight with honor, to be phantoms who protect instead of just destroy." A seagull landed nearby, watched her with curious eyes. Nature indifferent to human concerns about legacy and weight and the mathematics of violence. "I'm going to keep teaching, keep training operators who'll be better than I was, who'll save more lives than I did. That's how I honor you, not by matching your 91, but by exceeding your impact." She disconnected the call, stood there watching the ocean, thinking about Alaska and Afghanistan, about Sarah Brennan and Finn Dalton, and the 11 Taliban fighters, and one Syrian sniper who died because she'd pulled a trigger, thinking about the 217 lives saved by people she'd trained. The weight didn't go away. She'd learned that, but it became bearable when you used it for something beyond yourself. Sloan Mercer, 28 when she made 12 kills in 5 minutes, 31 now. Master Sergeant, Senior Sniper Instructor, 38 confirmed kills, but measured in impact, not numbers. Her father had taught her to be a sniper. Combat had taught her to be a warrior. Time had taught her to be a teacher. And together, those lessons had taught her the most important thing. That legacy isn't about matching the people who came before. It's about exceeding them through multiplication, through impact, through making every shot, every decision, every moment count for something larger than yourself. Master Sergeant Sloan Mercer walked back toward the training center. Tomorrow she'd start teaching another class. More candidates, more warriors, more lives saved through precision and discipline and the willingness to make hard choices. The Phantom of Kandahar had become the guardian of the next generation, and that legacy would outlive any number etched into any rifle stock. Because some things, the important things, couldn't be counted. They could only be carried forward, one precise shot at a time,